If you clicked on this video, you're probably struggling with a porn addiction. In fact, you've probably been struggling with it for years, and you've watched dozens of videos offering the same tired advice. Take cold showers, wake up at 5 a.m. And while these tips might help, like a dog returning to its vomit, you find yourself relapsing again and again. It's no secret, about 70% of men and 40% of women in the United States have watched at least one video from the hub in the past year. This could be your friends, family, parents, teachers. It's infected nearly everyone. Furthermore, Gen Z is the biggest consumer among any demographic in terms of adult content. And look, I'm no saint myself, and back in the day, I tried every secular method out there, but they all failed. I've also witnessed many of my friends struggle, and I've noticed a key difference between those who keep failing and those who succeed. Combining my own experience along with all my friends, I've compiled all this information into a 6-step guide with an actionable list at the end that you can implement into your own life. This is probably gonna be a longer video, so grab a notepad and let's dive in. Also, just a heads up, this is a Christian YouTube channel, so if you're not religious or you belong to a different faith, that's completely fine. Stick around. You'll still find a lot of great value because I'm about to tell you information that nobody else on this platform is going to tell you. Let's get right into it. When I was struggling with lust in college, attending a popular party school didn't help. I tried everything, taking cold showers, staying out all day, but every time I got home late at night, the temptation hit me like a truck. The problem with conventional tips like changing your environment is that they don't actually teach you to eliminate the problem, only to avoid it. After years of failing, I realized that I was missing a major key. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can't focus on the higher levels if you have a shaky foundation. So what is this foundation? First, you have to realize that there is an invisible war waging around us, and Satan and his army have infiltrated almost every aspect of human society. From the moment you wake up and check your phone, you're met with waves of scantily clad women enticing you with every swipe. Ads, billboards, magazines, even in seemingly normal places like going to the gym or a college campus, you can't escape. You see, within the past 100 years, Western society has rapidly decayed, from modesty to whatever this is. Why? Corporations understand a fundamental truth. Men are visual creatures and they shamelessly exploit this weakness. Combined with greed and a tinge of malice, you got teams of PhDs, psychologists, engineers working on algorithms designed to hijack your dopamine center, providing you with an endless stream of porn. It's the oldest trick in the book. But here's the kicker. What's at stake here isn't just your self-confidence, your productivity, as most of these YouTubers talk about. There's something far greater at risk, your soul. There's a saying, in the East they kill your body, but in the West, they kill your soul. So before we get into developing a game plan, I can't stress the magnitude and urgency of this challenge. Understand this, you're not just fighting against your own urges. You're fighting against society, an entire system that's designed to ensnare and entrap you. And look, nobody wants to be that guy that gets married and still watches the hub. I mean, come on, what would your future wife or kids think? This is not just a personal struggle, it's a spiritual war. Well, the Abrahamic religions teach that Satan is a real being, a fallen angel who wants to drag others down with him. Even if you don't believe in this, you can't deny the existence of real evil in the world. So the first step is to realize the spiritual dimension to this battle. For every deadly sin, we can cultivate a contrary virtue and face the problem head on. For example, if you have anger issues, you can face the person who's annoying you and work on speaking to them patiently. If you struggle with gluttony, you can eat 1 meal a day. But with lust, it's a bit different. You actually don't want to confront it directly. You need to flee. In his book, Spiritual Combat, Father Lorenzo Scapoli writes that unlike other sins, there is never a time where you should willingly subject yourself to temptation against purity. In other words, lust isn't conquered by facing it head on. It's conquered by fleeing. He says that lust often achieves in one instant what whole years could not affect. So if social media is tempting you, delete it. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, delete them all. You shouldn't be testing yourself to build up your lust tolerance. Struggling with lust is like Perseus and Medusa. You could be having a great day, you're killing it, but just one glance, one slightly suggestive picture, and you're turned to stone. Satan doesn't need much. You give him an inch, he takes a mile. In regards to fleeing, this sense of fleeing to the desert is actually rooted in scripture. For example, check this out. In 2 Maccabees 5:27, Judas Maccabeus and about 9 others withdrew to the wilderness to avoid sharing in defilement. There, he and his companions lived like wild animals in the hills, eating what grew wild. The Israelites had to escape Egypt and spent 40 years in the desert. King David had to escape Saul and live in the wilderness with his brothers. Okay, but obviously we can't just move to the desert, but we can integrate this fleeing mindset into our daily lives. For example, if I'm feeling tempted at night, I would rather run out of my house and sprint until I collapse, then fall into temptation. The saints had a similar mentality. St. Francis of Assisi would run outside in the middle of winter and jump in the snow. St. Benedict threw himself into a thorn bush, and St. Bernard jumped into an icy pond. You have to flee. The key here is your mindset. You have to flee. You shouldn't be wanting to fight this battle. You have to leave. You have to go to the desert. You're not fighting, you're fleeing. Step 3 is acknowledging that you have a problem, an addiction, and you need to get help. I know, this is uncomfortable. Like, me? An addiction? That's just like for crackheads, right? But let's be honest, there's a reason why you're here. Acknowledgement is the first step towards healing. You don't have to fight this battle alone. Chances are you also have friends that went through the same journey and they're probably still struggling with this same vice. So consider forming a support group where you guys get together and you discuss your wins and losses. It could be as simple as getting Starbucks after Mass on Sunday and talking about your struggles. I'm actually coding an app where you can track your streak, and whenever you're struggling with temptations, you can send prayer requests to your friends and they'll be immediately notified. You can also notify your friends when you've relapsed or you've went to confession. It'll be on iOS and Android, so if you're interested in beta testing, let me know in the comments. I would seriously consider going to SAA, which is kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, but for lust. Yes, it's awkward, but everyone in that room shares the same feeling of vulnerability. Now, you don't have to broadcast your struggle to everyone, but the more honest you are with yourself and your friends, the higher your chances of success. The Bible has a ton of wisdom, so I'm going to read with you a few verses that really resonate with me, which will put us in the right mindset as a segue for the next sessions about the physical and spiritual strategies. Pay attention because what I'm about to say is very important. Like a dog that returns to its vomit, so is a fool who repeats his foolishness. Watch and pray that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. How many times in our lives where in our hearts, our minds, we know we want to make the right decision, but there's just too much temptation to do so. This next one is literally me. I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. Next, I'm going to read this kind of long quote from Proverbs, but reading this gives me the chills. It's crazy how this golden chunk of wisdom is still relevant today. Check it out. I saw among the simple, I noticed among the young men, a youth who had no sense. Okay. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house at twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in. So notice this imagery. It's at night, implying some sort of secrecy. He wants to hide. Now, check this out. Then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. She is unruly and defiant. Her feet never stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, at every corner she lurks. She took hold of him and kissed him, and with a brazen face she said, "Today I fulfill my vows, and I have food from my fellowship offering at home." So, to paraphrase the rest of this chapter, which I highly recommend you guys read, this woman speaks of having a freshly made bed, linen sheets, perfume, her husband's gone. It's like the ultimate honeypot. But notice what it says next. Persuasive words, she led him astray. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once he followed her, like an ox going to the slaughter. Wow. He followed her, a young man, strong guy. King Solomon's describing him as an ox. He's being deceived, and he's going to the slaughterhouse. Now, get this. Many are the victims she has brought down. Her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is a highway to the grave, leading down to the chambers of death. Wow. Okay, I'm going to read one more verse, and then we'll discuss. Then the disciples came to Jesus and asked him privately, "Why were we not able to cast it out?" He said to them, "Because you have such little faith. Amen, I say to you, if you have faith as tiny as a mustard seed, you will be able to say to this mountain, 'Move here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. But this kind of demon does not come out except by prayer and fasting." Notice what he said. They can't cast this demon out except by prayer and fasting. That's a major key. All these verses I've mentioned hammer down one point. We are fighting against the desires of the flesh. Think about it. Physical temptations are everywhere. Browsing Instagram, walking past McDonald's, or hitting the snooze button. But here's the thing. It's not enough just to avoid these things. Avoiding them is neutral. It's just abstaining. What we should be doing is pushing the needle in the opposite direction. And that's where asceticism comes in. Your brain is accustomed to receiving free dopamine every day. Open TikTok, free dopamine. You need to train your brain to seek the opposite. To willingly find suffering, to not always take the path of least resistance. You need to develop a mindset of self-denial. And although I'm Catholic, I have to admit the Eastern Orthodox are pros at this. So the word asceticism comes from the Greek word to exercise. Listen how this Orthodox article describes describes it. Asceticism is about escaping the self, fighting the passions within us through personal effort, firm desire, and God's grace. In other words, you want to be controlling your body, not the other way around. When you let your bodily desires control you, you're no different than an animal, act on every whim or instinct. Saint Josemaria put it this way: tell your body, I prefer to keep you in slavery than myself be a slave. No ideal becomes a reality without sacrifice. Deny yourself. It's so beautiful to be a victim. The body should be given a little less than what is due. If not, it turns itself into a traitor. To give you an idea of how seriously some religious take this idea of self-denial, certain Maronite monks only eat 1 meal a day. They never eat meat. They don't sleep for more than 5 hours. They obey strict silence, perform manual labor, and live a life of absolute poverty. In fact, some saints would ask their friends to voluntarily whip them. Now, obviously, we aren't monks. It's not like we can just sit around and pray all day. We got stuff to do. We got bills to pay. So here are 5 practical ways you can implement mortification into your daily life. First is fasting. If you're struggling with lust, a great way to deny yourself is to only eat 1 meal a day. Yes, you'll get some weird looks from coworkers or family, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's your struggle, not theirs. Second is walking. Most of us probably aren't as active as we should be. We're in front of the computer all day, living our sedentary lifestyles. So the next time you want to go on your phone or call up a friend, instead of sitting in bed, use your phone while walking. For example, sometimes I really want to watch a YouTube video, and I'll allow it only if I'm walking laps around my block. It'll be a slight inconvenience. Walking isn't the end of the world. And I mean, it makes you healthier. Once you hit around 7,500 steps a day, the health benefits taper off, but it's a great way to deny yourself and burn some calories. Third, if you don't want to fast for whatever reason, restrict your diet and eat really boring foods. Stop eating out, eating hyper-palatable processed foods. Sometimes I'll eat unseasoned canned chicken or tuna. Of course, you're gonna get the low mercury one with white rice and broccoli. It's healthy, high protein, you'll feel energized, but it's also boring. You're gonna get sick of it real fast. When everyone goes out to eat, get a plain salad. Another great way to build self-denial. Fourth is to kneel for long periods of time during adoration. This is probably the most painful one. I don't know about y'all, but it's so hard to stay awake when you pray. So the next time you're at mass, adoration, go on the kneeler for at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour. It'll start to get really uncomfortable, but it won't seriously injure you. I mean, come on, grandmas are doing this. Another great mortification. And last is completing the heroic minute, a practice proposed by Saint Josemaria. Every morning, wake up at a fixed time without hitting the snooze button. Immediately get out of bed, drop to your knees, and pray. This will help you conquer yourself, build self-discipline, fix your sleep schedule, and be more productive. Oftentimes, when we make a major bad decision, it isn't some spontaneous thing. Rather, it's the culmination of hundreds of bad micro decisions, like waking up late, eating the wrong thing, scrolling on your phone, and they all compound into this one major failure. But if you start your day off right, you're like, you know what? That wasn't that bad. Now I'm gonna go for a run, do the laundry. You start to build momentum and you're starting the day with a degree of intentionality. Bonus tip, you can also try acts of service, like volunteering at a soup kitchen or helping the elderly. One time after confession, as penance, the priest told me to call up a family member I hadn't talked to in a while. When was the last time you called up your grandma or your uncle? I'm sure they'd love to hear your voice. Implement these tips and you'll be well on your way to mastering self-control. Now, let's talk about the most important segment, the spiritual side. Prayer is your most powerful tool in this fight. You and I, we're mortal human beings, and we're fighting Satan, a hyper-intelligent fallen angel who has been deceiving humans since the beginning. You cannot outsmart him. You need divine assistance. Here's the deal. I've never met someone who goes to daily mass, receives the Eucharist, goes to confession, and not beat their addiction. If you're not doing these along with adoration or praying the rosary, it's like spending your whole life trying to lift a heavy boulder when you have a forklift right in front of you. I know, it's exhausting confessing the same sin over and over again, but you have to keep going. You have to. In fact, here's another common trick the devil pulls. I'm sure we've all been here. If I commit this sin right now, I know tomorrow I can go to confession and have it absolved. So in a way, the sin is already forgiven. So why not just do it right now? Wow. Notice what Satan just did there. If you intend to do it again, you are not fully repentant. It doesn't work this way. Do you think God in heaven, he's just like, dang, you really got me? No, you can't fool God. Another key weapon, intercession, especially Mary. I recommend praying the rosary and or the 7 sorrows daily. I know a lot of you are probably like, oh, the rosary. Everyone tells me to pray the rosary. What's so special? Most people don't know this, but according to tradition, there are some pretty insane graces attached to devotion to the rosary, like protection from purgatory, armor against hell, victory over vice, and obtaining anything you ask for as long as it aligns with the will of God. And if you're really struggling, I would even consider going to a healing mass or a retreat. They're more charismatic, think speaking in tongues, so you might be hesitant at first. I haven't tried this myself, but I've met some really great charismatic Catholics who are on fire for the Lord. If there's one thing you take away from this video, you have to pray. Prayer and the sacraments are the strongest weapons. If you're not praying daily, going to confession, and attending daily mass, then stop complaining about your struggles. You're not using all the tools available. But I have school or work, it doesn't fit my schedule. Okay. Does going to hell fit your schedule? There's mass every single day, even if you gotta wake up at 6 a.m. before work or go after. If you're serious about this, you will find a way to make it work. Now, I know that was a ton of info, and I don't wanna overwhelm you. So how can we integrate these tips into our daily lives? Here's what I would do. First, if you haven't gone to confession, go right now. Stop playing this video, forget everything, and go to confession. Whenever you relapse, forget everything, go to confession. As Father Lampert says, there is a bigger spiritual win during one confession than an exorcism. That's how powerful the sacrament is. Second, the heroic moment. Guys, you gotta be doing this. You can't sleep in. Jump out of bed, kneel, touch your head to the ground, and say 3 Hail Marys. When you consecrate your day to God, you'll start off with a degree of intentionality instead of just bumbling around like an idiot. 3, daily mass. Go to masstimes.org, find a daily mass that fits your schedule, and start going maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Once you find a good system, you can go more often. To summarize, here's a list of tools that you can integrate. Whatever you do, confession and daily mass should always be a staple, along with adoration, at least 30 minutes, and the rosary. The next step, it's time to get to work. We're heading into a new month. 2024 is almost over. So boys, let's make this month count. Let's make this month better than last month. Greatness is coming, so let's go get this bag. Also, if you're interested in the app I'm building to combat lust, let me know in the comments. I hope this helps. Please pray for me. You know, I'm praying for you. God bless, boys. Our Lady, pray for us. Peace.